I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Anytime at all you come to Croke Park, it's fantastic. Even, I'm coming here all my life, and even driving in here this evening, again, you get massive buzz from coming into this stadium. It's one of probably the best stadium in the world. I suppose just talk a small bit about myself. Eoghan Hanley is my name. I'm, as Damien said, I'm a secondary school teacher in Cork Community School in County Galway. I'm also a Munster coach, education tutor, and I'm here tonight in my role as National Coordinator of the TY Future Leaders Programme. And again, I suppose it's something I'm immensely proud about, standing here in front of you talking. 2 years ago I was here, spoke for about maybe 2 minutes about a small project that we were doing in Cork Community School. And for the last 2 years, I suppose we've been working with a fantastic group of people in developing it and adding to it. And I suppose now we have this GAA Future Leaders Award. And I suppose the group is comprised of myself, Sean Kelly from Meath, Colm Hanley from County Clare, Munster Coordinator, Peter Byrne from Kildare, Garrett Coyle from Monaghan in Ulster, and we have Seamus Woods. I see him sitting down here. He's the chairperson of post-primary schools. He had an integral role in this whole process. Dennis O'Boyle from Connacht, Pat Daly, obviously, Jamie Darcy, without whom we wouldn't most definitely have the project where it is. David Sweeney, for O'Brien, Ronan Flynn, Tracy Bunyan, and obviously huge help from the PDST. So I'd just like to acknowledge them before I go any further. I suppose, what is the GAA Future Leaders Programme? So when you think of the game, think of Waterford versus Galway. You know, fantastic spectacle, amazing. 82,000 people outside here in the stadium. It's just an amazing event, great to be there. But I suppose there's two ways of looking at that. You can look at it, obviously, 15 versus 15 on the field. But then you can look at it, I suppose, take a step back. It's everything around the game. What has to happen? What roles have to be filled for that to happen, for those players to be out there? So I suppose you have your referee, you have your team managers, you have your coaches, you have your performance analysts, you have your nutritionists. Take a further step back, you've got your administrators at county board level. Another step back further again, you've got your journalists, your photographers, broadcasters, all driving the hype around the whole thing, making it the spectacle and the event that we all love, that we all come here for. Do you know? And I suppose that's really what the Future Leaders is. It's, I suppose, developing capacities in these kids that they can take on those roles that are obviously outside the playing role as well as on the field as players. So, let's press this button here. So, it's one of a number of games development projects and initiatives that the GAA is developing that are games-based, obviously, player and youth-centred, clickers, enough for me, learner-led and value-laden. Okay. Now, what that means is, I suppose, what we're trying to do is we're empowering and encouraging the kids at secondary school level to take ownership of their learning and, I suppose, most importantly, of the games. I suppose to use a phrase from the All Blacks is probably overused nearly at this stage, but it fits well here. I suppose the All Blacks said that, I suppose, better people make better All Blacks. And I suppose that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to make better people. We're trying to instill values in young people that will make them better people and therefore become the leaders of tomorrow. All right? So the course structure. So as Damien alluded to there at the start, this is a joint initiative between the GAA and the PDST. The PDST is the Professional Development Service for Teachers. And the course structure, so it's a cross-curricular programme linking basically various roles with subjects. And the programme consists of 8 modules. The modules vary in length. In general, they're between 6 and 10 hours long. And a school can choose to deliver 1 or more modules. Delivering 5 modules plus the running of a Super Game Centre or Blitz results in the pupils being awarded a GAATY Future Leaders Award. All right? So the modules are as follows. So again, it is games-based, it's around the game, but it's everything to do with the game, but it's also everything around the game. So the modules are fundamental movement skills and coaching of hurling or football, refereeing, administration, sports journalism, performance analysis, nutrition, wellness, and event management. Okay? Again, all about developing more rounded pupils, therefore more rounded players, more rounded coaches. And pupils will receive a GAA certificate for each completed module. All right? And here's the subjects that these modules will be linked to inside in schools. So they're linked with PE, maths, English, science, business studies, home ec, well-being, history, and career guidance. Okay? From an assessment point of view, obviously because there is certification, we have to have an element of assessment. And so each pupil gets an online e-portfolio to store and share documentation and assignments on learning.gaa.ie/future leaders. Now I suppose from a GAA point of view, and I think Pat mentioned it earlier on about the Award 2, the new Award 2 pilot program, where we're trying to encourage people to use this new learning platform and the learning management system. So I suppose, talking about long-term dividends, we have now, while on a pilot program with the Award 2, they were using this learning management system. I suppose on a more national basis, we're using it on the Future Leaders. So we have over 2,000 transition year pupils using this system, who will long-term, hopefully a huge portion of them will go on to do foundation awards, Award 1s and Award 2s, and to be well used to using our learning management system that we are rolling out for all the various coaching courses over the next number of years. So pupils receive certification for each module when the tasks are completed and submitted online in their e-portfolio. As an extra added incentive for the kids then, there's a competition element of it. So the competition element then, for example, you have, with the sports, linked to sports journalism, so you could have the best sports journalist will shadow a sports journalist here in Croke Park, because that's where they all want to be, here in Croke Park on the day of a big match. As it happens for this year, it's the Leinster football final. So that's going to be a fantastic occasion. They'll be above in their press box. They'll shadow referees, sit down with the fourth official on the sideline, see what happens. They'll go to Abbottstown, meet performance analysts, meet coaches, meet nutritionists. You know, all these things, all the various modules has a competition element linked to it, which will increase their learning. And I suppose they'll be meeting experts and seeing what happens at the highest level of our games, both here in Croke Park and in Abbottstown, which will be a fantastic, I suppose, learning experience for the kids. Now this project is two-pronged. I suppose on the one hand you've got the class-based stuff where they're learning about the roles, they're learning about the various different modules and various different things that are linked to the game, obviously. But then there's no point in having all that if you can't practically apply it, because that's what it's all about. We want these kids to be out with their school, with their clubs, on the field, helping out in whatever way they can. And I suppose the practical application of it is, so when the modules are completed, they hold an AGM and form their Future Leaders Committee. All right? At this, same as any club AGM, they apply for various positions, they're proposed, seconded, etc., etc. And then when their committee is formed, that committee then oversees the overall running of Super Game Centre. Okay? And I mean that, as I said, I've done it now in my own school. We have 50 schools doing it at the moment. We take a step back and allow them to do it, because that's where the learning is. You're empowering them, all right? So allow them to do it, allow them to take ownership of it, okay? And then they hold weekly meetings to decide who does what, who's refereeing, who's playing, who's doing whatever role it is, okay? The committee here, this is what our committee was, and this is what, with the 50 schools that we have at the moment. So their executive positions are chairperson, secretary, treasurer, PRO, like what you'd have in any club. Chairperson, fixtures committee. We have a social media committee, we have the actual fixtures committee, event managers. Now, I have other positions there, and that's very important, because it would be very easy for me or for any of the teachers rolling this out to say, these are the jobs, this is what you have to do, that's it. But the thing is, the kids, and if I go back to 2 years ago when we started in Gort, the kids themselves come up with these roles. The kids themselves come up with these positions. And I can see there's a few teachers around in the audience that are actually presently rolling out this. Other positions is there because there are going to be 15 and 16-year-olds in front of you who will have brilliant imaginations. Pat spoke about imagination a few minutes ago. They are going to have imaginations. They're going to think of roles that we couldn't even dream of. And they will fulfill those roles. And it's important to allow them. Let them do it. Let them take ownership. And as I said, empower them and leave them off. And I suppose they'll think of things, as I said, their imagination will think of things that we could never think of. And it'll only add to it. It'll only add to it. Leave them at it. Super Game Centre's jobs then, I suppose, this is more on-field based then. You have your team managers, you have your referees, umpires, linesmen, nutritionists, performance analysts, journalists, etc., etc. Okay, and again, I have etc., etc. there because, again, give them license to think, give them license to imagine what do they want to do, okay? Again, it's about developing the pupil, developing capacities in them, all right? So some of you might know, a quick show of hands, who knows what a Super Game Centre is? Okay, so some people do know, some people don't know. So a Super Game Centre is basically, and again, Pat spoke about it earlier on, there was an OECD report in 2012 about player dropout. And again, not to be going over what Pat said, but just to refresh it, it said that between the age of 12 and 21, that there's a 58% dropout of players. That's huge. That's crazy, crazy. So I suppose to combat that, what the GAA have come up with is the idea of Super Game Centres. And basically, I suppose we saw a video a few minutes ago of the kids playing. I'm not sure where they were playing, but we saw no coaches. All right, so they were just allowed to play. Let them play. So a Super Game Centre is basically sport in its purest form, where kids play the games just for the sake of playing, for enjoyment. There's minimal coaching input. They're playing for fun and enjoyment, as I said. All right, that's what a Super Game Centre is. It's the idea is that, I suppose, you're casting the net out. Fair enough, you're going to have your hurlers and footballers and camogie players, they'll play anyway, but you're casting the net out to get other kids who might have dropped out for whatever reason they dropped out. Maybe they weren't enjoying it, maybe it was too elitist, maybe it was too competitive. Whatever reason it was, they might have stopped playing, but we're trying to get them back in, get them playing for the numerous benefits that we all know that playing sport will give them, okay? And I suppose if I just give you a quick example of my own school in Gort, we're an A school in hurling. It's brilliant. We're delighted to have that. That's fantastic. And so obviously with the nature of being in an A school is that it's elitist, of course. And I suppose it's very much based around competition. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Competition is good, do you know? But there's nothing wrong with it as long as we don't forget that there's other kids too that want to play, and that there's other kids too that would love to be outside and have a system of games provided for them too, do you know? And I suppose if any given year, let's say last year, for example, to use an example, we'd have approximately 25 first-year hurlers and 25 second-year hurlers. So you're talking about 50 kids that would play and train in the school regularly. But as one of the speakers was talking about the drop-off level between primary school and secondary school, a number of kids who would come into us after primary school, who might have hurled in primary school, wouldn't dream of hurling with us because they'd be thinking, well, I'm not good enough to hurl in that team, or I'm not, for whatever reason. Super Game Centre last year that we ran over a period of 6 weeks, we had 96 first-year and second-year boys hurling that hurled and enjoyed it. They hurled because I suppose their friends were hurling. It wasn't elitist. It was just about getting them playing the game, getting them outside playing the game. Fair enough. Not all of them stayed playing with the school. Some didn't. We'll have another Super Game Centre again this year, so hopefully we'll get those lads back out again. But some did, you know. But the most important thing is that I suppose that they were out, they were playing the game, they were with their friends, they were enjoying it, they were making friends, whatever. All the benefits that goes with that, you know. So that's basically what a Super Game Centre is. I suppose just to give you a few figures and a few facts and figures. So 2017-18, which is this particular school year, we have 50 schools that are running Super Game Centres and blitzes, all right? You can see there from the logo, Sky Sports are sponsoring Super Game Centres now. Next year, 2018-19, the Future Leaders Programme will be one of the programmes that we roll out, one of the largest groups of Super Game Centres in the country. We're going to have approximately 300 Super Game Centres and blitzes nationwide from next September on, all run through our secondary schools. Like when you think of it, the player numbers in Gort alone nearly doubled, and we're adding 300 more Super Game Centres to that. Well, in fairness, the figures speak for themselves, okay? So just to move on here. So again, started off in 2015-16, that's when I was up. Last time we started in Gort, it was the first school that started. Last year we had 5 schools, and the 5 schools are the schools of our 5 regional coordinators. And that was pilot phase 1. This year we're in pilot phase 2. We have 48 schools. As I said, I can see a number of the teachers involved sitting here in the audience tonight. And next year already we have 250, actually 256 to be exact, schools that have registered to date. Now that is all but from word of mouth and social media. We still actually haven't contacted the schools about this. So after this conference, next week, myself and Jimmy and the lads will actually be sitting down, and we will be actually drafting a letter to let the whole country know that this is what we're doing. So I expect that number to rise. And if you look at the figures again, this year there's 2,500 primary school or transition year pupils that are taking part in this program. Next year, going off those figures, there'll be approximately 15,000. And myself and Pat would often speak, and we're talking about MVAs and all various different fantastic initiatives that the Games Development Office here have. And Pat said to me one day that to roll some of these things out, you need a massive volunteer army. Well, as I said to Pat only 2 or 3 weeks ago, well, here's your army. Here's your army of coaches now coming down the stream, and it's going to have a massive dividend to the association in the years to come. And I suppose something that myself and the lads who are involved in it for the last 2 years are particularly proud about. The PDSC has earmarked this programme as a priority, and the Department of Education inspectors have endorsed it. And I suppose from our own point of view as an association, it's the first ever sports course, IRFU, FAI included, that the Department of Education has allowed to be timetabled into schools. So that in itself is fantastic for us and something that we're all immensely proud of. So why do the Future Leaders Programme? So I suppose just to look at the GAA Coach Mission Statement, or Coach Education Mission Statement. So the GAA is committed to implementing an integrated coach education programme with the view of, and I've underlined a few of these words here, so maximising participation. So is this programme going to maximise participation? Well, when you see the amount of kids that we have out playing through the Super Game Centres and the various other initiatives that are all part of this programme, yes, we are. But it's two-pronged as well, because I suppose I look at a class of 30, 15 and 16-year-olds. Are they all going to play sport? Are they all going to all of a sudden just, oh, brilliant, I'll go back hurling now? No, they're not. But do those kids have a skill set that we could use to get them back involved in some way? Yes, they have. So these kids are going to be your coaches, your referees, your administrators, all have various skills that we can use and that they can bring back to their local clubs and parishes and help the games to flourish for years to come. So we're maximising participation on two fronts. Optimising playing standards, again, we're developing coaches, we're training kids up in nutrition practices, I suppose. From this course alone, even if you just think off the top of my head, from last year's TYs we had in Gort, a number of those lads and girls went on to work with their own club senior teams, helping out with performance analysis. Loads of them went on and coached underage club teams. So optimising playing standards, yes we are. And then I suppose I spoke at the start about we're developing capacities, we're I suppose instilling values in these kids. All of this, we're instilling values in the players, in the Super Game Centres. I suppose, you know, the values we're instilling in the TYs when they're going out meeting these younger kids, then we expect them to model those values so that the younger kids see, well, this is how we behave, this is what you need to do, this is what's needed to make it in whatever area you want to make it. All of this is, I suppose, ensuring the players' needs are catered for in a balanced way. So the Future Leaders Programme is very much in keeping with the GAA Coach Education Mission Statement. Again, look, Pat Daly is very much to the forefront. We're very lucky to have him in the GAA. I suppose globally, some of the stuff that he has is groundbreaking. It's fantastic, and it's fantastic to be working hand in hand with the man and learning from him. And I suppose what we have here, I suppose, is so the Future Leaders is one of a number of games development programs that emphasises a value-based approach in learning and development. Okay, and by ensuring that these values are at the heart of the program, we aim to develop better people, I suppose, with the capacity to complete whatever role they wish to fulfill. Okay, and essentially we aim to build conceptual, operational, relational, and explorational life skills so that people can function effectively in various areas of life, in work, in play, in education, and in general communal life. Again, it goes back to the theme that an awful lot of the other lads are actually speaking about here tonight, about just developing better people and helping these people to, I suppose, outside the white lines, as Shane was talking about earlier on, and in their life in general. So the well-being and lifelong learning, all right, the aims of this is to ensure that the bio, psycho, social and spiritual dimensions of well-being are catered for through fitness, fun, just moving on there, friendships and fairness, okay, respectively, to facilitate the future focus of the association. Okay, and through this, through the modules, through their practical application, with working with the players, the younger players, we're tying in with all of this, okay? So again, just quickly on the benefits to the individual, so the TY pupils themselves are developing responsibility, initiative, maturity, inclusivity. This one is huge for me, fostering a sense of belonging in the child. So in a time, I suppose, where young people are struggling with mental health and all sorts of, it's a lot harder to be a young lad or a young girl now than it was when I was growing up or when most of us were growing up. It's tough going, all right? And I suppose if you take most of the towns and villages and parishes up and down the country, especially in rural Ireland, if you're not part of the GAA club, if I take a young lad, I'm not going to name any parishes, but if I take some of the young lads I teach, that I see on a daily basis, and they're from some rural parishes, if they're not part of the hurling club, they're very much on the outside. They're very much outside of everything that happens in their parish. They don't, at times, have young lads to hang around with. The idea of this programme is really to foster a sense of belonging in the child. And we were out in Abbottstown during the summer, myself and Jimmy and all the lads, and we were developing resources for this programme. We did loads and loads of videos with inter-county players, inter-county managers, performance analysts, nutritionists, everything you can think of that's anyway related to the game. We interviewed experts in the field. I suppose one interview stood out with me, and it was a lad, he's a performance analyst, and he said, look, I was never really good at the game. I tried, but I kind of fell away after a while because I wasn't very good at it. But I always wanted to hang around with the lads. I always wanted to be part of it. So he went into performance analysis, and he was very honest and open in the video, and he said that is how he felt part of a team. He loved the idea of being in the dressing room with the lads, having a crack with the lads, and I suppose the lads knowing that he wasn't just there as a water boy, or he had a real role to play. He had a very important role to play in the overall setup. And I think we can, through this programme, give young boys and young girls all over the country that sense of belonging by letting them realise that their skill set, that they can bring their skill set back to their parishes, back to their clubs, and have a real meaningful role, a real meaningful job in their parishes and in their clubs that will, as I said, help their mental health and every aspect of their lives going forward. And again, as I said, there's benefits to the pupil, the school, the local community, and the country as a whole. All right? And this is Pat, as you all know, because he was just speaking here. So, but basically what we have to understand is understand why age-related activities and values are key to optimizing social capital and potential. I think that's a huge quote, and it really sums up what we're trying to do. Okay? Obviously, this is in school. It's a school-based program, so there's huge educational benefits as well to the pupils. So through the Future Leaders program, the pupils enhance their physical literacy skills, digital literacy skills, literacy, numeracy, presentation, and communication skills. All right, so we're taking them out of their comfort zone. We're, I suppose, exposing them to things that they might not usually have a chance to do, and developing all of these areas of their, I suppose, from an education point of view and personal development point of view. And I spoke about earlier that it's one of a number of programs that are coming down the line from the Games Development Department here in Croke Park. Absolutely amazing initiatives that are coming down the line in the next year and 2 years. And I suppose we have your player pathway, we have our coaches pathway, and now I suppose this would be like a GAA Schools sustainability pathway. And Pat spoke about sustainability. Like, we want to have it that schools are self-sufficient, that schools can provide for themselves, and then it's a cycle. So what we have is, Pat Culhan was mentioned earlier on, we have this fantastic initiative, the 5-star centres, okay, brilliant initiative in primary schools. Leading on from that, what we're going to have is a Junior Life Skills Award, which will be linked in with the new Junior Cycle Wellbeing Programme, all right? Leading on from that then, we have obviously the Future Leaders Programme, which is for transition years. Moving on from that then, you're going to have your Youth MVA, okay, which will be linked to Senior Cycle PE, which is fantastic new development coming into secondary schools from next year on. And then that all then leads back around to your 5-star centres, because your Leaving Cert PE pupils, students, will be training up as coaches and going back out to their primary schools to run their 5-star centres, which those kids then will go back into. So 5-star centres into your junior life skills, up to your future leaders, up to the youth MVA, and then back around to start the next cycle again. And a continuous cycle, making it a sustainable pathway from primary school to secondary school to keep as many players as possible playing the games. All right? I suppose we were out in Abbottstown last October, and I just said this to Pat, and Pat said, well, that's your vision. That's the vision of this GAA Future Leaders. So the GAA Future Leaders programme will future-proof our games in towns and villages countrywide, developing capacities in young people to empower them to take ownership of the games and carry them forward for the next generation. That's really what we're trying to achieve. All right? And I suppose these pupils that we're looking at will be the future administrators, coaches, referees, ground staff, performance analysts, nutritionists, etc., in every club in the country, hopefully. That would be what our aim would be. And they could be the reason that thousands of kids will play our games in every corner of the country for years to come. So that, as I said, and I don't think it's too ambitious. I do not think that's too ambitious an aim. I think it's a very realistic aim, considering how quickly this thing is growing, and I can see the appetite amongst teachers, amongst coaches, amongst pupils. It's fantastic to see it. And I suppose, just to finish off, if you want any more information about it, if you visit learning.gaa.ie/future leaders, you can go on that. Everything you need to know about the course is on it. If you want to register for the course, you can do it there as well. If you have any questions, you can email us at futureleaders@gaa.ie, and we're on Twitter then at GAA Future Leader, where you'll have constant updates about what's happening around the country in this domain. So what I'd hope that you would do is, take it back to your clubs, talk to your club coaches, talk to parents that you know in secondary schools, talk to your local secondary schools, let them know this is coming down the line, I suppose, and get them on board. And thanks a million for listening. Okay.